The Lion Diet rules. Let's get into the details. What's shaking bacon? I hope you're doing well. So I've been doing this 80-20 challenge recently. I started a Facebook group going on this 80-20 challenge because some people wanted to do this challenge along with me. It's going pretty well. Almost 1,000 people have signed on for this. And it's really interesting because this is just something I was doing for myself. I've never had anyone want to join any of my challenges that I've done in the past. Here we are, almost 1,000 people later at this point. So if you want to join this challenge with me, it's a high-fat, moderate-protein, 4-meal-a-day challenge where you work out your macros into a certain number. It's not the way carnivore is typically done. The beauty of carnivore is typically you don't have to measure anything, but this is designed for people who are still having stubborn weight loss. This is designed for people who have maybe had a plateau for a long period of time. Now, the high fat is something you can do regardless, but the 4 smaller meals in a day is going to help lower and manage your insulin better than someone who's having 1 or 2 meals a day from intermittent fasting. I know it sounds crazy to believe, but it works. So one of the things that lends itself well to this way of eating with a high-fat, moderate protein is the Lion Diet. So the beauty of the Lion Diet is it's a strict version of the Carnivore Diet. There's no cheese on the Lion Diet. It's just ruminant animals. Most people stick with lamb and beef when doing the Lion Diet because they're the easiest to get and probably the most affordable as far as most people's pocketbooks are concerned. And the beauty of this, especially with beef, is it's high fat. Typically when you get beef, it's high fat. It's also affordable because especially if you're getting a half cow at a time, you don't spend very much per pound when you do that. You get meat on sale, it's a great way to go. You want to go for fattier cuts of meat. So you supplement it with butter, or you can use beef trimmings. If butter's not working out for you and you want to be really pure with the Lion Diet, you just get more of the fat trimmings from your local butcher. From there, you can top off all your meals with beef fat. But I just use butter for the most part. Now, yeah, I get sick of butter a little bit every now and then, but I can switch it up and I'll have bacon for that reason. But if you wanted, you can just make ribs your go-to meal. It's not such a bad way to go. So the Lion Diet lends itself well to a high-fat version of carnivore. So it's really strict. It's just beef. That's it. You can have salt if you want. Some of the original OG carnivores out there don't have salt. You can decide what works better for you. The important thing, no matter what version of carnivore you're doing out there, is you're doing what makes you feel good. What makes you feel good doesn't necessarily make somebody else feel good. So your advice might be good for you, but it might not help someone else's. So you got to keep in mind, everyone knows what's worked for them, but some people are still trying to figure it out. And that's why they're tuning into channels like this on YouTube and also on other platforms, because they want to find out more of how this works and what might work best for them. You always have to search, because even when you do figure it out, your body will change. And maybe in 5 or 10 years, what you've been doing doesn't work so well and you're going to have to tweak it again. So I've gotten to this point where I've been at this plateau for 8 months. I'm down 150 pounds, but I've been at this plateau. And doing this 80-20 multiple meal a day challenge has helped get me through this plateau, as well as lots of other people who come from an intermittent fasting background. So the rules of the Lion Diet are straightforward, right? You have meat. You want to have fattier meat if possible. And the beauty is when people do such a restricted way of eating, yes, it's restrictive as far as your diet's concerned, but you tend to feel better when you're doing a Lion Diet because you've knocked out all the other foods that can complicate things. Some people can't manage lean meats very well. Some people can't manage poultry very well or pork. So what happens is they fall back on just doing this red meat. Often people are doing it to manage their autoimmune disorders or their health problems where a carnivore diet isn't quite getting them exactly where they want to be. It's often helped a lot, but they know they have to go a little bit further. And it's tough to stick to for some people because you can get tired of red meat, but you got to keep in mind there's lots of different ways to cook it. You have a lot of different variety when you're having beef. Now, I can live off burger patties all day long, but I'm telling you, it's a lot easier when you mix it up and you have steaks and you have ribs and you have burgers and you can quickly grab any of this food by cooking a bit extra and leaving it in the fridge. It's very manageable if you're on the go. I supplement my carnivore diet with butter because it's an easy way to get extra fat. Right now we're going into the fall, so I've been making soups and stews, and it's a great thing to go access from the fridge and just warm up and have something that I can get by with. You have to find what works best for you. If you're not doing this 80-20 4 meal a day challenge, it usually works like this when you're doing any version of carnivore. Eat when you're hungry and then eat till you're satiated. Repeat. Have lots of water in there, not so much that you're getting leg cramps. Make sure if you want, you can get some salt. Some people do feel better if they cut salt out. I know what Dr. Barry says about salt. I enjoy salt too, but some people do feel better without it. My father recently said that he does better without salt, and I'll get into that more in another video. There's lots of different versions of carnivore out there, and this is one of the easiest. I can't say it's the easiest, it's one of the simplest. Some people might have a difficult time with it if they're coming from a sugar addiction background and they're having a hard time adjusting to an all-meat diet because they're dealing with carbohydrate and sugar cravings. So that's a pretty steep hill to climb if you're just doing the Lion Diet as your first time out. And one of the ways to make it a little easier is to stay satiated all the time. And that's where you want to have a high-fat version of this diet to help keep you satiated. But for the most part, you're going to get great results doing regular carnivore. This is sometimes for the people who just need that little bit extra. Maybe they need a little bit extra for their energy levels. Maybe they need that little bit extra just to help their autoimmune disorders. Whatever it is, you don't know until you try. You have to feel it out. I knew someone once who couldn't handle the histamines in the red meat. And whenever they ate red meat, they felt horrible. They had horrible gut rot afterwards. They grew up not having a lot of red meat in their diet. So when they started having it regularly, almost every few days, they couldn't stand the way they felt. They loved the way red meat tasted once they finally started having it cooked properly, and it didn't taste like they were eating shoe leather. When they started having red meat and it was cooked really nicely, they loved it. And for them, it was worth the gut rot. But they found something that worked for them. It was just taking a regular digestive enzyme from a health food store. And that helped manage the gut rot that they would feel whenever they'd have red meat. What worked for them turned out to not be the enzymes. That's something to help manage the problem. Something that eliminated the problem was having grass-fed, antibiotic-free, hormone-free beef. That also means the food that these animals were getting didn't have anything added to the food. So it was just high-quality, well-fed animals that lived out in the pasture. And once they had that beef, they had no problems digesting red meat. Whenever they went back to the regular store-bought ground beef or steaks from a grocery store, gut rot. So we found something that worked well for this person, and it made life really simple and easy. You have to find what works best for you. Sometimes it's more expensive, but if you buy that in bulk, it works out to be a lot cheaper. I only pay $4.80 a pound when I order my half cow. Now, it typically costs me between $1,700 and $2,200 at a time when I get a half cow. But now that I'm doing these smaller portions, one steak lasts like a whole week. It's really nice. But you're getting it dirt cheap. You're getting all the expensive cuts that go for $20, $22 a pound regularly for like $4.80 a pound. Ground beef right now is roughly going for $4 a pound. So always keep an eye out for sales. You have to learn what prices are good when it comes to meat. And always remember, you want fatty cuts of meat. You want meat that's well marbled, at least with a nice fat cap on the side. Just because it says AAA doesn't mean it's a high quality AAA. There's lots of times I go to a grocery store because I see red meat on sale and it's AAA cuts of steak, and then I get there and there's no marbling. One of the major reasons why you pay for AAA is the marbling. It's not just the fat cap on the outside. When that happens, you go and ask one of the staff members. You ask one of the staff members if they can go back and get some cuts from the back that actually have some marbling, because that means they're selling AA meat and marketing it as AAA. It's definitely not AAA if you don't see any marbling in there. There's got to be a lot of marbling for AAA. That's what you're paying for. So keep all this in mind when you're doing the Lion Diet. You want to stay full. You want to stay satiated on the food you can eat. You want to stick to higher fat. And if you're doing this challenge, you definitely want to stick to higher fat. Keep an eye on where you can get a half cow at a time to get the ultimate price on your beef, and start paying attention to different sales. Find out what's a good price to pay for different cuts of meat. You might look and think that's a great deal, and then someone else might look and say, hey, wait a minute, that's nothing compared to what I spend. And don't forget the beauty of fat trimmings. When you get fat trimmings, you can often get them dirt cheap. I recently paid 99 cents a pound for my fat trimmings. So that's a really good way to go to add more fat into your diet. You can fry it up in a pan. You can cook it up in an air fryer. There's a few easy different ways to prepare it. So just keep this in mind. It's something that is a higher level version of carnivore. It's there to help you feel even better. If you're not feeling good on it, there might be a reason why. Maybe it's the type of meat you're eating, or maybe it's the fact that you're eating too lean. You never know. But if you decide to give it a shot, let me know. If you've tried it before, let me know. Tell me if it worked for you. I like to hear people's experiences. So thanks for tuning into this video anyway. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. Take care.